It's Song Talk Radio.
Welcome to Song Talk Radio, the show with songwriters talking to other songwriters about the craft of songwriting. We share tips, tools, and techniques, and together we all become better at writing songs. Dialing in from our headquarters in Toronto, I'm Neil Modi, and with me, my usual co-host, Phil Emery. How you doing, Phil?
Doing pretty good. Calling in from St. John's, Newfoundland, way over on the east coast of the landmass, actually, North American landmass. As far east as you can go.
Continent. That's right.
So,
before you cross the pond, yeah.
Doing just fine.
Great. Okay, and in the special co-host seat tonight, we have Toronto-based guitarist, songwriter, vocalist, and koto player, Jessica Stuart. Welcome back to the show, Jessica. How you doing?
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here with you guys.
Great to have you again on the show, and be sure to check out Jessica's episode on the podcast stream. It was just a couple months ago, so be easy to find. That was a great episode we had with you a while back. Okay, and for everyone else, please send your comments and questions to at Song Talk Radio on Facebook or Instagram, or feedback at songtalk.ca for the email, and we'll share your thoughts on the show. And please visit songtalk.ca to see the show post for this episode, to find links to resources we mention, and to download lyric and chord sheets to follow along with the songs that we feature. And before we get to the main meat of our special theme show today, just another reminder about our songwriting challenge to write a song in an odd time signature. We're asking our listeners to please send in your songs by November the 10th, 2025. That's in like 2 months.
Which will go a lot faster than you think.
It'll go way faster than you think. And of course, you can check out the website, songtalk.ca. On the sidebar there is a link to the songwriting challenges. You can check out all the resources and episodes we have talking about odd time signatures, get yourself learned up. And thanks to the folks who have sent in their songs already, the keeners.
Yeah, they're amazing.
We've got them in the queue. they're being collated, and we'll be sure to do a couple of episodes featuring our listener songs, which is always a great blast.
Indeed.
All right. Okay, on to the main item for tonight. It's a special theme episode of Song Talk Radio. We're going to be reacting to a video by the YouTube channel Songtown called 10 Mistakes That Peg You as an Amateur Songwriter. This is with songwriters Clay Mills and Marty Dodson. They run a great channel on YouTube called Songtown. It's a podcast as well. There's a link to the full show in the show notes for this episode, where we're going to be touching on a few of the points that they bring up during the show. And as well, Jessica's got a bonus point about something that pegs you as an amateur songwriter. So stay tuned for that. Okay, so shall we get started? Okay,
Yeah.
The first tip up is for discussion is called All Stats, No Story. Let's have a listen.
I'll call this All Stats and No Story.
Okay.
So a lot of times when I'm reviewing songs in Songtown from members, they'll be all excited. It'll be, let's take, for instance, a subject matter. We're writing a beach song. And they'll be all excited to send me this beach song. And throughout it, they've listed flip-flops and Ray-Bans and white sand and tequila and salt on the lips and all this description of beach life.
Mm-hmm.
But there's no emotional story that makes me care about what the song is about.
Right.
You know, another way they say that in Nashville is furniture. It has so much furniture of these details like,
Right.
you know, Cuervo gold and a blue chair you're sitting in or whatever. It's got so much detail in furniture that, you know, and the writer's all excited because they've thought of a million different beach things and put it all in this one song. But you got to have something that makes you care about the song. That we used to say, what's going to make me care? What's the give a crap? You know, I would say the give a
Yeah.
But what's the give a crap factor of this song? Are people going to care about the song?
Yeah.
And so I think more than the detail, that song's story, what the song's about, how it makes you feel, has to kind of come first. But then, yeah, you need some detail in there too.
Yeah. I think I know where that comes from a lot of times too. I don't know how many songwriting seminars I sat in when I was trying to learn how to do this, where they said, well, first thing you should do is take out a piece of paper and write down every word you can think of that goes with that topic.
put it in this circle.
Yeah, exactly.
And then draw another circle over here. And none of us write that way.
I mean, that can be a useful exercise if you're stuck, but you don't want to just take all those words and put them in a bag and shake them up and that's your song. Like you said, you've got to have something deeper, that there's a story here. We're telling a story.
Do they still have shake and bake where you put chicken and all the ingredients in a bag and you shake it up and then you have wonderful chicken?
Yeah.
But songs don't work that way.
Not at all.
It's not a shake and bake process.
Not at all.
Very true.
I'm going to write a song about shake and bake now.
Yes. Yeah, it's definitely, I don't think they're, of course they're not wrong. I think you always need to have a core emotional line in your song that sort of everything sort of goes around it. But you can use those finding words that go within that world to sort of fill out the song, to help you sort of fill in the gaps. But, you certainly just don't take random words and put them together and cram them into a song. You still need a core emotional line or emotional core idea to make the song about, really.
What do you think, Jessica?
Well, it makes me think of, I feel like, my opinion, songs are often the best songs, not every time, but often the best songs are songs which tap into some big feeling that you're experiencing at the time, or that you have recently experienced, because when that's fresh in your mind, you have access to a lot of different tangential thoughts, and then it helps you sort of fill it in. It makes it really relatable. So I definitely feel like that is the core thing, or like, Phil, you were saying an emotional line, like to connect things to, or maybe, in a similar way, like the underpinning of the song, the actual point of what you're trying to say. So enough, when I did my episode with you guys, I talked a little bit about the way that the brain lights up the memory parts of your mind when you talk about tangible things as opposed to just ideas. So all of those flip-flops and beach balls and all of that, those are all tangible things. So I think it's just about like balance, finding the balance, right? That's kind of what I think about it. I think there is a point in I mean, and then there's an exception to every rule, because there's some songs which are kind of like with a humorous approach or something, where they are list songs. There are songs that are successful as the exception to that rule, which are just like lists of things with a funny refrain or like some kind of a funny point, takeaway from it. So yeah, you don't want to hear just this list of things unless that's like the cute thing about that song. And yeah, there has to be some kind of an emotional thing, or else, what is there to connect to? But it's like, I'm newer in my songwriting career, maybe like 8 years ago, I started co-writing for the first time, or however many years, something in the past decade. And I always start there with like, what's on your heart or on your mind, like with the other person. And when you guys can find that shared thing, then you can hang a lot of stuff on it when it's got like this other thing. So I think it's like, I don't know, maybe not a hard and fast rule, but like, everything in moderation.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I've always tried to take that approach of, can you write what your song is about in one sentence, right? Just sort of encapsulate it. It may or may not be in your lyric or whatever, but at least you have a focused sort of thesis of your song, the emotional core. It kind of reminds me of like the way they talk about like sports movies, for instance. Like, it's not really about football. It's about the relationships between the players and the coaches and the romantic relationship and whatever. It's about the human relationships. Yeah. In any case, it's not just a list of things. Now, I do agree with your point, Jessica, that there are sort of, quote unquote clever songs that can just be about lists of things with a funny refrain. It actually reminded me of when a couple of weeks after you came on the show, your friend and collaborator Zoe Thiessen came on the show, and her song "Such a Good Girl" is like the verse is just a list. It's just a list of all of these like verbs, right? But the clever thing she did, or the smart thing she did, was it's immediately brought in with the central hook of the song. Why am I such a good girl? So it immediately brings it into like an emotional core, right? Or the main point of the song. So even if you're going to do that, then yeah, it's a good idea to sort of, still have the emotional content, up front. And the list thing, I mean, I've been told that as well. Go and find, look up thesaurus.com and just sort of find similar words and, make if they rhyme even better and sort of cobble together a lyric like that. But of course, you've got to have that emotional core in mind first. I mean, you could just have some kind of an idea and then find a bunch of synonyms and antonyms and things like that and rhyming words, and then maybe then maybe the emotional core of the song comes to you, like what is the song really about, quote unquote, and then you can whittle through that massive list of words you've got and see what actually fits with that with that emotional story and what doesn't, because otherwise, yeah, it's just a list of stuff.
I think also their approach is very much a sort of Nashville professional kind of songwriter thing. They're not really talking about writing songs as a form of expressive art. There certainly can be both of them, but they're really about, okay, you're in a room with a bunch of people and you want to get a song that's marketable, that's going to, that's what it's all about. They talk, in fact, I think they'll be talking about it during this segments about, selling the songs and, that's really a lot their focus. So it's also kind of a different approach when you are, if you're cranking out 2 songs a day, it's hard to have that much emotion, unless you're a complete emotional mess. It's hard to have that many crises to put in songs, which is one of the reasons why, as people get older and they get happier and more content, sometimes it's harder for them to write because they're not screwing up their life so much, So,
well,
true.
I have to say that what you just said right there, this was the point that I was referencing to you guys, that I didn't explain what it was, is that, in coming into this, I find, having gone to a lot of music conferences and like listening to this and whatever, things like that, anytime there's a songwriting seminar or workshop, they say like, how to write a good song or like how to be a great songwriter. But the question, which I've literally never heard, there's like a huge assumption, is what is the purpose of your writing individually? There's so many different motivations for people to write music. So I love, Phil, that you brought that up, because that's what I was going to say. The title of this video is just about being, showing, not being an amateur sounding songwriter, but they're answering all the questions with a very specific lens, because the world of songwriting is much broader than for commercial use. And I think that that's important, because art, like the art of music, is hugely important and more important to a lot of people who actually write music than the commercial success of their music. I'm sure that there are thousands upon thousands, if not more, of songwriters with songs that even would fit that or would break through, like a Bohemian Rhapsody or like a whatever the unusual songs are that make it, right? And they don't follow any of the rules. And I bet that there's lots of people like that. So I think that that's like a good thing to think about too, just as a songwriter. Like, why do I write? What is the purpose of this writing? Because then you come up with different answers and it can actually steer you differently. So anyway, I'm glad you brought that up, because that was the thing I was going to say.
Yeah. I guess it's always important to, when you're evaluating an art form, to understand the point of view of the artist and where they're coming from and what are they going after? What are they trying to achieve? Are they trying to achieve a song that's, not accessible emotionally by anybody? Okay. Yeah. If that's your purpose, then
I mean, I was at a workshop. Sorry to cut you off, Neil. I hope I didn't. I was at a workshop at one of these music conferences that has been in Toronto for a long time. And it was maybe 10 to 15 years ago. And someone that I respect hugely, who is still doing music now, it was like they picked demos out, like a bunch of people submitted their demos, and then they were like they were listening to 5 of them and evaluating them in this workshop. That's what it was. And so one of my friends ended up having hers picked. And to me, that song was a perfect song for her. It was a perfect song. I loved it. It moved me emotionally. It gave me goosebumps, all the important stuff. I found the lyric, her vocal use, everything perfect. They criticized it hard because they said that she used 2 different timbres of her voice, which to them didn't belong in the same song. And I'm thinking to myself, that's quite like, they did not ask the question, what is the purpose of this song? They did not say anything about it being a commercially focused thing. And that always struck me as being like, she got a raw deal in that, because she was, they just decided that that's not fit for radio. But anyway, that's just an interesting point. Yeah.
Yeah.
This also reminds me of, we have a blog on songtalk.ca with various articles and stuff like that. The very first article I wrote like 10 years ago was called, "What Does It Mean to Be an Amateur Songwriter?" Right? And a lot of people, I think, see the word amateur, hear the word amateur, and immediately associate it negatively and think it's a bad thing if you're an amateur. You're such an amateur, right? Sort of thing. But another way to think about it is to actually look at the derivation of the word, like if it comes from Latin or wherever it comes from.
Yeah.
Like I always think of the French equivalent, amour. It means love, right? And it's sort of the same sort of derivation. So to be an amateur just means you love what it is you're doing. You're doing it with passion. It doesn't mean that you're pursuing it as a commercial enterprise, but that you just love what you're doing. It doesn't mean you can't adopt some of these tools and do the same things the way the pros do a lot of the time or some of the time, but it just means that you're not making money from it necessarily, and you're just loving what you're doing. So nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with that.
Okay.
All right.
Let's move on to the second one. This one's a little more on the craft of things. Well, actually, that one was too, but pronoun mix-up. Let's take a listen.
You got another one for
Pronoun mix-up.
Whoa.
We don't have to talk a lot about this because we do talk a lot about it, and you're the lyric meister. But I know that for me, pronouns, when I hear a song that's like talking about you, and then it gets to the chorus and it says, well, she's the, and I'm like, wait a minute, are you talking about a new girl to your old girl? Are you, is it that's the same person, but you've now mixed up your pronouns? Like, I think that's one thing that is a simple fix. When you're done writing your song, go back and look and see if you mixed up your pronouns.
Yeah.
Because if you send songs out like that, it just screams amateur.
And somebody asked me one time if that was a songwriting rule, and I said, no, it's a bad communication.
Yes.
So if I'm talking to my wife and I'm saying, I love you so much, she's a great partner, she's going to go, wait, who's a partner? And so it's just confusing. So it's not a songwriting rule, it's just a confusing way to communicate.
And I think we sometimes do that because we're writing and something sounds good. Mm-hmm. Maybe you sounds better than she, but the rest of the song is she, and so we're getting it, but it sounds good, and we get locked into that. But yeah, at some point you have to straighten it out.
Yeah, good solid advice, I think.
Yeah, certainly. I remember we had someone at the meetup a while back that had this issue. It was a hip hop artist, actually. The lyric was like 4 pages long, and it was a lot of words. And it started out as I, and then went to she, and then went to you, and then went back to I, and it was all over the place. And it was clearly an I and you song. Like if you just look at the emotional content of the song, it was clearly an I you song. It's like, dude, like why are you bouncing back and forth between all those pronouns? Just I and you all the way through, and you'll be much more clear. And the last bit of that, what they were saying too. So it's not a question of is it right or wrong, but it's a question of is one of your intentions, like we were saying before, like is your objective here to communicate something to your listener? If you want them to understand, then it is a communications vehicle, and if you want them to understand, then you got to be, to a certain extent, you got to be pretty clear about it.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny. I was just moving some sheet music around, and I needed a folder, and I ended up in the folder just today after having listened to this video that we're talking about. And I found some pages from the album I wrote in Nashville, which was like a co-write with someone else. So it was like formatted differently and whatever. And I actually had corrected this exact thing on the. Oh. Like it was there exactly, like I had crossed out a U and put an I, you know what I mean? Like this exact thing was like in the first verse of the song. So yeah, this is definitely something that I employ for sure. I'm sure you guys do too, and most people do. There is also a funny thing that I do sometimes when it's like a central message, like the message is like a relatable message. That's the like the hook of the song, like, kind of as to the point of the song, meaning the point of the song. Sometimes I will do a thing where either just the last chorus, I'll change the pronoun in order to make a universal message. It was an I and now it's a we, right? Or I might change the pronoun intentionally as like a feature of the song where you outline all this stuff in the verses and pre-chorus or whatever it is, and then you discover as the chorus comes, each time it's a different pronoun, but otherwise identical chorus. And that's like an interesting feature you can use, but that's not exactly what they're talking about, but it's related.
Yeah, but there it's done with intention, right?
Exactly.
It's not random.
Exactly right.
Yeah, I've done that before. Not exactly that before, but I find, I mean, a lot of songs these days, I think you've commented on this, Phil, before. You go back to like the 60s and 70s and even the 80s, there's more songs in third person.
Yes.
Right. And these days it's all I and you. It's all I and you, right? But like you're suggesting, Jessica, like there's a lot of power in switching from a I and a you to a we, or to an us, or to a them, like just, and it's a good thing just to play around with as you're developing a song. Just try and flip the point of view, flip the pronoun and change the verbs as you need to, kind of thing, and see what happens. See what happens to the emotional impact of that, and try and do it. We did a songwriting challenge a couple of years ago, and I was trying to put some emotional distance because it was kind of an emotional. It was a tough time. And I wrote it as a he or a they or something like that. Then I hit a block with the rhyming, and I was like, no, I need to switch this to an I to make this rhyme work. So I revamp the whole thing to an I. I'm like, you know what? Emotional vulnerability, just throw it out there. It's all good. And it worked out. It was fine, right? But it can be a really powerful thing. Just which pronoun you choose, can be.
Yeah.
I just wanted, if it's okay, there was something, Phil, you had said on a previous question, but then you were just talking, Neil, about emotion again. And I just wanted to specify that to me, emotional does not mean that you're troubled. Like the emotion of joy and everything's also, does the job. So like, I just didn't want the word emotion to be attached to like the hard times, because it does encapsulate other sentiments as well. So anyway, just a thought.
It is harder to write positive songs, though. It's
harder to write a happy song.
Yeah.
Sorta. I mean, like, I don't know. I can tap into it sometimes.
I find it's harder to write a happy song that's earnest and honest without being saccharine.
Yeah, maybe
that's just for me.
I'm actually, when I'm writing a happy song, it always has the like reality moment. So it's like the happy versus the, so maybe it isn't exactly like purely just that. It's like we acknowledge the struggle of life. Yeah. And in doing so, we can express the joy or like the other side of it.
Toxic positivity song. Okie dokie.
Number 3.
All right, should we move on to the next one?
Yeah.
This one's called Slave to the Rhyme.
Slave to the Rhyme? Oh, yeah. That's number 4, but that's okay.
All right.
Slave to the Rhyme.
Whoa.
So I was on this event. It was kind of a group setting where it was a group of people that weren't songwriters wanted to have this experience of writing a song. So we were writing, and I noticed they were all like pulling out on their phone rhyming dictionaries going, okay, well, we've got to rhyme with slave. So knave, pave, they're so obsessed with finding the rhyme that
they don't care what it says.
Yeah, so finally I just had to say, well, what are we trying to say here? And then once it became clear what we were trying to say, it was easy to find a way to make it rhyme. That's the easy part.
Yeah.
But I think people get so caught up in trying to find the rhyme without even knowing what they're saying. So that always screams like amateur to me.
Yeah. Or choosing the rhymes and, rhyme scheme and knowing when to break it. Sting certainly has very predictable rhymes. Seemed to work for him.
Yeah.
One thing that sort of really stood out to me with these points, which definitely were all true, but they really focused on lyrics.
I noticed that too. So little talk of music. Anyway,
and for me, it's like lyrics have always been my weakest point. That's always the last thing I do. But I found out I work just like Paul McCartney because that's how he works as well, and it works out okay for him. So I'll do the music and do everything, and then just go ba-da-doo-da-da-dee-dee-dee, and then just make noises, and then eventually do the lyrics. So they didn't really talk about the music stuff, and I always focus more on the aspects of the music, like the chords and the melody development and those kinds of things. And I do pay attention to lyrics, but it just made me realize how much I pay attention to music, to the musical part versus the lyrical part of a song.
Totally with you there, Phil. Like for me, it's always about I think maybe 2 out of 200 songs I've written have started with a lyrical thing. It's not that I haven't had little cells of lyrics that then I've been like, oh, this matches this musical idea. But the music for me always tells a story on its own. I hear the story. That's how I know what type of song it is, what the topic, where it puts a pin on the board of what topic this song could be about, because you can't have all major chords, nice, happy-go-lucky, and be talking about depression. That doesn't, unless there's a particular slant on it, it just doesn't match, right? There's so much. And even just changing the music of something, one of my favorite things to do is do a cover of a song where it completely flipped the style on its butt. For instance, Only Girl in the World by Rihanna, I did that as a sexy slow jam. When you do that, all of a sudden, when you hear the words, want you to love me, it's so different than when it's a dance hit, want you to love me, right? And then versus the slow, I want you to love me. It just changes the meaning of the words completely as well. So there was definitely, I feel that just is reflective of the style in which they write, I think. And I'm more like you, Phil.
Yeah, it's certainly a thing. I mean, the thing with rhyming though is, I think when you do start out songwriting, you tend to write with more perfect rhymes. Right, and then you learn about that whole nuance thing about rhyming on consonants, rhymes, and I forget what the other one is now, but where you just rhyme the consonant sound, you just rhyme the vowel sound, or you don't rhyme at all, And again, the same thing with the pronouns. It's an incredibly powerful tool to convey the particular emotion that you want. Perfect rhyme tends to be more positive and stronger sort of confidence or whatever, right? But an imperfect rhyme or no rhyming at all seems to suggest some kind of doubt. And that's a linguistic choice, but it is also a musical choice, because it's about the sounds that you're conveying, right? And the sounds, especially there are certain songs that are perfectly rhymed, and it goes a long way to making them catchier, I find. Right? An A rhyme scheme, boom, 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 boom. It's just super catchy, especially if the melody is exactly the same way through, right? It can be very, very catchy. So there is, I think it's about, again, when they're saying amateur, I'm sort of reading it in my mind as maybe not so good a song, but could be better if you are more deliberate, intentional, and about your rhyming, is it something you want to use as a tool to convey emotion or not convey emotion, or is it just something you do wrote because you're supposed to?
I think most of this all has to do with being intentional in your decisions, and I think that's one of the big differences between someone who is a professional and someone who is doing this just for the joy of it. Is that a professional will sort of take the time to be intentional and to stop and look back at what they've done, and he with an eye to intentionality to make sure that they're achieving what they want to and then making those changes. So this is all really about just being intentional with your choices.
Completely agree.
Yeah. So,
and that goes outside of songwriting too, as in the creative field.
Yes, in any creative field. Yeah.
Just for anyone who's interested in seeing that in every single creative profession you can imagine, there's an amazing series called Abstract Art of Design, which you can see online. And that's every single creator who's, each episode is about one creator of something, maybe an architect or a stage designer or Nike shoe designer or a car designer or an illustrator. And every single person is completely intentional in all the details. They've got it all. It's important to them. They have philosophy, what's important to them as a creator, and they make sure that all of their work fits within that. And same for music.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Filmmakers, poets, whatever.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever you do. We had a guest on the show. This was almost 2 years ago. Remember Joey Cofone, Phil, who wrote the book the Laws of Creativity.
Oh yeah.
And he's not a musician, does not talk about music or songwriting at all in that book, but it's so applicable to what we do.
Yeah.
Because he's just talking about all the things that govern, creative thought and intentionality, for sure. Awesome.
All right, what's next?
Okay. Same old same.
Same old same. If you're writing songs that sound like every other song out there, people go, well, all the songs on radio sound the same. Well, first of all, that's not true. If you listen to the top 10 songs right now in pop or the top 10 songs in country right now, there's a lot of different styles there. I think it got that way for a while, but now I think more than ever, I'm hearing a lot of different styles of music. But if you're trying to just write what you think will get on radio, and you're not putting your own voice, your own sound, your own style into it, then I don't think you have a prayer cracking through. Because if Ashley Gorley's writing, 10 hits this year, they're going to call him if they want that sound.
Yeah.
He's proven that. They're not going to call you to come up with his sound.
And if you write titles like "I Love You," and the A&R person has got "I Love You" or "Beer Never Broke My Heart," they're going to go, I'm going to check out "Beer Never Broke My Heart" because I've heard 1,000 "I Love You" songs, Right. And so that's kind of what we're talking about, is that you got to be fresh and you got to have something that makes you stand out.
Very true.
Yeah. You be you.
Yeah.
I found that tip kind of interesting because, like, I can't write anything that I hear on the radio, even if I tried to. I wouldn't know how to write a song and sound like The Weeknd. Like,
yeah. Well, you need to be in a co-writing situation with people who authentically write more like that, and then it would become this melding of, but the authenticity thing. I mean, I don't know if you guys feel this way, but like the amount of music that I would buy to listen to over and over in my own home. I mean, that's a funny way to put it because that's not how people consume music really these days. But the music that I would want to own for myself is slim. But the music that I hear or see performed live, when I see that, I have such a broad taste for it. It's basically, as long as the person is doing their authentic thing, then I can love it. I don't care if it's one chord the whole way through. I don't care if they don't know how to sing in tune. I don't care any of that stuff. If the person is doing their authentic thing, I can enjoy that experience of that song. I might not want listen to it a whole bunch on my own, but I will love it in that moment. And it's just about being authentic. When someone's putting something else on, I have a nose for that. I just smell it. It repels me when someone's doing not their own style. They're just trying on a hat or trying on someone else's outfit or something like that. And it's just like, I'm very, very sensitive to that. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, trying to chase fame by copying what other people have done is exhausting and probably won't work. So, it's better to do what comes naturally and wind up not being successful than not being successful and chasing someone else's style, because it's...
Yeah, because even if you do become successful that way, you'll still feel disingenuous.
Yeah.
And not like it's your true self and go through all those things. So yeah, probably not a good idea.
I find it interesting how that there's a different sort of like a cultural, a creative cultural trend that evolves over time. I mean, what I'm getting at is that, let's say in the 90s, okay, let's look at like hip hop and rock music of the 90s. Let's take like grunge, for instance, because that was like an era of that. Every band in the grunge title really sounded, if you think of the big bands involved who fell under that umbrella, they would never dare like each other, because that was against the rule. Like everyone would be like, "You're a poser." That's what they would have said. And in hip hop, same thing. I've seen interviews from in the 90s, and Snoop Dogg talking about this other style. It's like, you can't, if you caught my style, write you a diss track, basically, or like you're going to be like, no one's going to like your stuff, right? So that was like the culture of music was like, you do your own thing, because if you don't, then you suck or something, right? But then like sometime later, maybe 15 years after that or something like that, people like, I don't know about other countries' radio, but in Canadian radio, people were looking for things that sounded like things that were successful, which made it strange, and so then people were producing things, even songs which might be different from other songs. People were using production techniques to mirror successful other artists, because then the safe radio of Canada, more safe in Canada than many other places, Europe, America with AAA and like whatever else, right? They would try to recreate that vibe to be successful. So then it went that way. But I think the pendulum has swung since then. So that's also an interesting thing. But then also to note, as a person who's done a little bit of stuff for film and TV stuff, people do say, they give you a reference track and they say, do something like this because we can't afford this. And that does happen. And that is a way to make money doing exactly the thing that we don't really want to do. But that's not writing a song so much as writing an underscoring for something else that's happening. So I guess it's in a different realm, but overlapping.
Yeah. You referenced that a long time ago, Phil, the sound-alike.
Oh, yes.
Service or whatever.
One of the first articles I wrote for Song Talk way back when the world was young. Was about sound-alike tracks. And these are tracks that basically will sound like the Smiths. But it's not the Smiths, but it sounds exactly like the Smiths in terms of guitar playing and tone of voice. And, but the idea is that it would be sort of in the background of a movie. And this way movies can get that time through music without having to pay for the actual tracks. Yeah, and even George Martin was doing some of it. So we should add. We'll put a link to that episode in the show notes, because it. Yeah, for sure.
You have to dig that one up.
Well, I'll have to make sure all the tracks are still the same.
Yeah, those links are still actually still active.
Fascinating and interesting stuff. So
yeah, for sure. Okay, too many ideas.
Yes,
this is an interesting one.
Yeah.
The next one for me would be too many ideas. And I heard Smokey Robinson one time say, they asked him what the best songwriting advice he ever got was. And he said, Barry Gordy sat me down one day and he said, son, your songs are about 5 things. I want you to write a song about one thing. And he pointed out, he was like, you could make 5 songs out of this one song. So, just the idea that most of the time a song is about one thing. And if you can boil it down to what is that one thing, then you can have a great song, and so watch putting too many ideas into your song, too many different kinds of things. And the blueprinting idea that I teach in Songtown is one way to kind of keep from doing that. It keeps you focused on what's the one thing I'm trying to communicate in every section of my song.
Yeah, having that one central feeling, one moment in time, one central feeling, those things really get your song focused. And then the listener knows how to feel when they listen to your song. If you've got too much going on, the listener just doesn't know how to feel. And you're not going to elicit, tears. You're not going to elicit great joy. You're not going to make somebody want to, change their life if you've got 10 possibilities in a song going on.
And sometimes it's not even clear what the singer is feeling. Exactly. It's like, this singer's all over the place.
Even if the singer is choking up as they're singing and they sound so emotional, if the song isn't backing them up, then, it doesn't matter. It's just a great singer singing something that you kind of, the singer's going through it, but you don't feel it.
Right. Exactly.
Yes, we get, during the meetups, people bring in songs, and very often it's really common when you're starting off and there's just too many things and it gets kind of confusing. And it's easy, I think, to almost in a way of protecting yourself is by cramming a whole bunch of ideas into a song. And having just one solid, clear idea is usually the most effective, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, we had Jeremy Volz on the show a while back talking about this.
Friend of mine.
Specific. Yeah. Oh, yeah. He's great. And he was saying specifically about that. It's just zero it down to one thing. And I think these guys as well, they're talking about lyrics, mostly they're talking about content, but I think it also applies to music. Like how many hooks do you actually need to have in a song? Like you need maybe 1, 2, 3 tops. You know, like to really zone it in and focus it, right?
Depends on if you're doing
have your song. Yeah. Frogs.
Thank you, Phil.
Yes. Or what was that? There was we did our 90s song draft. Was it Lady Gaga? It was just like hook after hook after hook after hook after hook. And then you got mixed up between which hook belonged to which song. It's like all over the place. But but certainly is true. I mean, songwriting, I've heard this before too. Songwriting is a very forgiving art form. You can do a song a day kind of thing, right? There are enterprises that do a song a day. What other art form can you do in a day? You can't, do a sculpture in a day. You can't write a novel in a day. It's a very forgiving art form. You can write about this one little idea and then write something ancillary to that and something that's related and something completely different and experiment and do something different every day. It's all fine.
Well, I have a question, actually, that brings up. So they're talking about very songs with very clear ideas and very clear lyrics and very much sort of a Nashville, LA music industry kind of way. But how do we feel about bands like Oasis, who has lyrics and I'm never really sure what they're talking about? I mean, like cigarettes and alcohol is pretty clear, but a lot of them are not that clear. Or, sometimes, Blur would sort of do that as well. That sort of, so,
Radiohead, like
yes,
Well, may I answer this question, please? There's a mood. People listen to music for a mood, and I think that when there's a band scenario as opposed to like an artist, like a songwriter artist person, that it becomes more about the collaborative energies and skills and palette and mood created by these members. And so people listen to Radiohead or to Oasis or to Blur. Interesting, we picked those bands from anyway, whatever. But they listen to those bands because they're looking to satisfy like a feeling that they have, which this matches this. I don't know that the majority of those listeners, and I might be wrong, but I feel like it's more that than the lyric. I mean, you listen to Tom York talk about coming out of songwriting, like dry spells and things like that. And he does stuff like tear up, like actually the breaded chicken in the bag thing. Like he literally wrote words, cut them up, like wrote sentences, cut them up randomly, free association, cut them up into individual words, put them in a bag and took them out to get inspiration for how to, break through his songwriting, dry spell. So certainly the rules that they're talking about don't really apply to those bands. And for me, I think the reason being that people are interested in those groups for the most part because of the collaborative energy between everyone and the resulting vibe of the music.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that being said, like everyone, like Tragically Hip, Gord Downey was such a poet. I'm not all that familiar with Tragically Hip. Like it was, it was a band situation. So I think what you say is valid, absolutely, because a lot of the time, I think you can just get away with it more, kind of thing, right? Like an individual solo artist, their audiences maybe are expecting them to be bearing their soul to a certain degree and singing about their personal experiences and all that sort of stuff. That being said, I don't know what the majority of Tori Amos songs are about. I know there's a message and a story in there somewhere, but they're often masked in this vivid imagery. I'm always distracted by the extraordinary piano playing, so I'm not even listening to the lyrics, right? So I think Oasis, they're great. I don't know what any of their songs are about, but that's okay.
Actually, if I may add just one more point, I've been really realizing recently as I perform less of my original music, I realized the difference, and I perform my original music in solo form at my monthly music series. And I also, including the world debuts, and then I also perform with my trio less frequently now. And I realized that my approach is completely different. When I'm doing a solo performance, performing my songs, I'm thinking about the lyrics. I'm putting myself back in the place that I was when the song was written. I'm conveying that. My diction is even different. And when I'm playing with the band, I'm like, I'm a guitar player. I'm going to have some fun with my bass player and my drummer. I'm going to sing this melody and I'm going to do this, but I'm actually not really thinking about the lyrics in the same way that I do when I'm on my own, because there's this energy, like the rhythmic interplay, the way that I write music and I arrange music, there's like a tapestry of interplay between the instruments and cool arrangement. And like, it's about like the vibe of us in these open improvised sections. Like, how are we going to get out of it back to the last verse, And so I'm less focused on that myself. So I wonder if there's some element of that involved too. Like if Tom York performs his song solo, versus when Tom York is performing those songs with the band. I don't know, for instance, just a thought.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think, I don't know what song, was it Creep or was it Street Spirit? Maybe it was Street Spirit. That he was like, this is from the deepest, darkest part of my soul, and everyone's in the audience with their lighters. And like, stop enjoying it. It's supposed to be a cathartic, like really heavy duty song. Like, no, but whatever. Okay. All right. So the last one from this duo, lack of contrast.
All right, number 9. What you got?
Contrast.
Whoa.
This works on so many levels, lyrically, musically. And what I mean by that, a lot of songs I see that come through Songtown are kind of one-dimensional. Let's start with lyrics first. My first Darius Rucker cut, the verse was all about, I drove out in a cloud of dust. He's leaving this girl, and he's not looking back. He's determined he's not going to look back. But then when he gets to the chorus, he goes, but don't think I don't think about it. Don't think I don't have regret. You're like, whoa, I didn't see that coming. Because the verse is just all about him leaving. He's not looking back. Then you hit the chorus and you're like, oh yeah, he did leave her, but now he has all this grit. So there's contrast.
Right.
Whereas if the whole song started out, I left out in a cloud of dust, but sometimes I wonder if I made the right decision. By the time you get to the chorus, you're like, okay.
You gave it all away.
Yeah, you gave it all. Don't give it away. So I think having that contrast, even like with the title of your song, having a setup line that's contrasting before you hit that setup line. Can you think of an example of that?
No. Can you?
Yeah, I can. So the title is The Song Remembers When. The setup line is, even if the whole world has forgotten, the song remembers when. It's like, whoa, and it's contrast. Yeah. Forgotten, remember. It's opposites. So I think whether you're writing a lyric, it's important. Musically, I think it's even more important. I know this video is getting long for us.
We're going to hurry.
We'll talk about melody contrast another time.
Okay.
But this whole idea of not having enough contrast in your songs really says that you need to level up if you're going to hit that pro level.
Yeah. I did think of one song. It's called The Elephant Song by Gene Cotton. And you should check it out if you've never heard that song. It's kind of an obscure song, but it's talking about going to the zoo with this girl and what a great day they had. And then later they broke up and he goes back to the zoo to try to feel that again. And he's like, the monkey forgot you, the polar bear and tiger too, but me and the elephant, we still remember you. So it's got that contrast.
We've talked about this before on the podcast many times, Phil, about the role of contrast in every creative art form.
Yes.
Not just songwriting or music. And we get this all the time at the meetup. Someone performs their song or performs a recording and everyone in the room is like, was that the chorus? I couldn't tell when the chorus hit. Was that part of the chorus, or was that just another verse, or was it a pre-chorus? We can't really tell.
Yeah.
And I don't know.
You need to make sure that people understand where you are in the song. Like, you should be able to listen to the song and go, okay, that's the verse, that's a chorus. You know, even if there's not a chorus, maybe there's a refrain, but it should be clear where the sections of your songs are. And often when you're beginning songwriting, you just put stuff together. You don't necessarily think about those things, but having a clear delineation in your songs does help people understand what you're trying to do.
Yeah. I mean, it's also just the surprise thing. I mean, if you think about like writing for TV or movies, like you have to have some kind of like, there has to be, I mean, it can't just be everything predictable, I guess, is, you know, that's like in the framework of writing for those kinds of things as well.
Yeah.
What do you think?
We've gone over this stuff on the podcast so many times. Like, well, yeah, your melody really lifts in the chorus. Okay, that's. But and what they're alluding to in that clip too is that yes, it's lyrics, it's melody, it's chords, it's rhythm, it's all those things that make a song a song. They all have a part to play in that, and you have a lot of power in controlling and deciding which is going to be which. We had a songwriting challenge a couple years ago where. The object of the challenge was write a song where the chord progression never changes, right? So then you're like, okay, well, how can I really intentionally play with the melody, play with the lyrics so that chorus actually stands out as a chorus?
Yeah.
And the bridge stands out as a bridge.
Yeah. And I love how all of these things that we're talking about, there's exceptions to every rule, you know, and learning about when to break those, like, when it feels more natural to break them than to follow them. That's kind of, you know, I find that really interesting that we're talking about all these rules, but it's also like, you know, there's an appropriate time to shed those things.
Yeah, that's true. That's why we prefer to say that they're tips.
Yeah. Yes.
But it's like,
they're not necessarily rules.
Like when you start off any kind of art, or any kind of sport, you know, you just don't kind of start running, or you don't start just taking a brush and slapping some paint on. I mean, you certainly can do that, but if you actually do take some time and learn stuff about composition and contrast and eye focus, those kinds of things, you will get to where you want to be faster and your work will be better. It doesn't mean you can't do good work without being schooled. It's just, it takes a lot more work, and it's kind of by chance. And if you're, especially with Songtown, where they're concentrating very much on people who want to make a living at this.
Writing on demand. Not just when the inspiration hits, but being able to generate the inspiration enough through these different methods.
Yeah, and that's kind of it. And sometimes when you don't have inspiration, you can actually use these rules or, you know, rules of thumb to actually get to a point where inspiration will catch, you know? So inspiration doesn't have to be clear at the beginning. You can be playing around with stuff and you go, oh, wow, that's kind of neat. I mean, I wrote so many songs during practice sessions while I'm, you know, doing scales, and then you know, futz around for a bit and you get, you know, it's just getting your brain into that open mode, you know?
Yeah, and of course we referred to our episode we did a couple of years ago at this point with Susan Catania from Boston about overcoming writer's block. Like, there's so many ways. You know, listen to the news, read a book, like do something different, and just pick out a bit. It doesn't have to be about your personal trauma, like you're saying before, Jessica, right? It can just be about anything.
I actually had to write. So after I did a score for a very successful CBC documentary. Then I was asked to write about overcoming writer's block for Words and Music magazine for SOCAN. And so I actually wrote an article on that exact topic with a sidebar of tips, because I have 1 million ideas about how to get over that stuff.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, we'll definitely, you better send us a link to that. We'll put a link to that.
I will.
In the show post,
Do we have any other points, or like I don't want to miss my one pet peeve that wasn't on your
You're
list.
talking about evaluating songs, right? What's your thought about that?
Well, no, actually, the evaluating of songs we talked about, like Phil naturally brought up, and that was that topic. So I just wanted to add like my pet peeve or it's a pet peeve, let's just say, rather than making. Well, it actually does make people sound like an amateur songwriter, I think. Or maybe we shouldn't use the word amateur anymore now that you've defined it for me, Neil. I kind of want to like reclaim it a little bit, but
for beginner songwriter.
So one of my huge pet peeves in songwriting, and again, there's an exception to every rule, is when people put the emphasis on the wrong syllable in not just lyrically, but musically as well. People might have like, if you go up and down, like down, up, down, you're putting a stress on the second syllable of a 3-syllable word or whatever. That's what's happening. People don't consider that, and they do things in a way which is like jarring, occasionally hooks can be made of things like that, and like the oddness of it makes it like singable. So that's the exception to the rule, but that's one of my most hated things. I mean, hate is a strong word, dislike, let's say, but for me, I really enjoy in songwriting, I enjoy how people mirror the cadence of speech, like natural, the way that people actually talk and then make things fall in. That to me feels flowing and natural. And so that's what, if I was doing this with them, then, this video with them, I would have definitely had that one as a point.
Yeah, it's very true. I look back to songs that I wrote 10, 15 years ago. It's like, I'm putting emphasis on wrong syllable all over the place. Nowadays, and often it was a case, well, I don't know how to fix it. It's good enough. I don't care. Like it doesn't matter, right? But if you put the work into it, you can actually rejig your melody, rejig your lyric, find a different word, whatever, that'll still convey the same feeling, but you put the, like you say, natural cadence of the language, and you can make it work.
And if you
being said, you're right, Jessica, there's a ton of hooks out there. It's wrong, it's grammatically wrong, but it's so cool.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, and because again, it's all about being intentional in your decisions. So that if you're going to go, I was looking for some action. I mean, we don't usually say action, but it's part of the hook of Cigarettes and Alcohol by Oasis, which I've just started listening again, and hooky is all heck. But he does it all the time. He puts these weird emphasis on words, but it becomes sort of part of the hook. But you want to do that intentionally and not by accident, or
for sure,
or by sometimes you will do that to sort of make a song, a lyric fit within a line, and that just means that's not the right line for that melody. You just got to find one that works better.
And unless it's super hooky and it totally feels right. But I'll be honest, like when I started out, it wasn't that I didn't know how to fix it. I just didn't even see it as a problem. I didn't see it as a thing that needed to be fixed. It was just like it's fine. That's the way I write, and that's good. But now in my listening, I tend to be a little bit vexed when it happens in other songs. I'm like, oh yeah, there's that thing. where 10 years ago, I wouldn't have even noticed it.
Well, that probably happens because after 10 years of doing this on a weekly basis, you pay attention to those kinds of things, Well,
and you do tend to learn these things doing this podcast every week and having, all the artists that we've interviewed over the years and things like that. And our songwriting challenge a few years ago when we had again Susan Catania from Boston, she gave me a hard time about my song we did for the challenge, where I did exactly that, and it was in my main hook, and Phil had my back, but Susan was like, no. For the record, I didn't change it. It's still the way it was. With the emphasis on the wrong syllable.
Yes, indeed.
Sometimes it just got to be that. All right.
So would that be like
I think that's
song talk for song talk?
Song talk.
Song.
On talk radio. That's all the time we have on.
What have I done? What have I done? What have I? Wait a minute. That actually worked. Never mind.
What have I done? Okay. Special thanks to the Songtown channel for the great video, and Jessica Stuart for joining us and your awesome insights. Where can our listeners find out more about you, Jessica, and find out some more of your music?
seldom updated website, jessicastuartmusic.com, but a more often updated Instagram, which has information about a lot of things that I do, some behind the scenes story type stuff and just kind of alerts about shows. But yeah, you can search my name and find a lot of different things online to do with my songwriting and stuff to do with that documentary, with the film score I was talking about and the SOCAN thing and all that different kind of stuff.
Lovely. Yeah, great stuff. Okay. We want to hear from you too, so please send your comments on Facebook or Instagram to @songtalkradio, or send us an email, feedback@songtalk.ca. Send in your songwriting challenge answers for an odd time signature by November. What did we say, Phil?
19th or something?
November 10th. 19th.
Yeah.
Being very lenient.
A lot of buttons to push. I can't be paying attention to.
November the 10th. We have a schedule to maintain here. Come on. And be sure to check our YouTube channel for live performance videos, full episodes. Subscribe today to the Song Talk Radio podcast on your favorite podcast provider. And please support us at our Patreon page. You can visit songtalk.ca/support. Thank you to everyone who has supported us so far. You can find links to all the products, books, and web services we mentioned on the show on our resources page. And please join us at our next monthly Song Talk meetup. Whether you're in Toronto for our in-person meetups or anywhere in the world for our online meetups, it's free to join on Eventbrite and free to attend. Bring a song and a lyric sheet and get constructive feedback from other songwriters. Stop by songtalk.ca for the link. You can follow me at neilmodi.com. Phil?
At philemery.ca.
And Jessica, what's your Instagram handle? Jessica Stuart Music?
At Jessica Stuart Music, Stuart spelled Stuart, like a first name.
Awesome. All right, be sure to stop by the website, songtalk.ca, to browse past shows and find out how you can be a guest. Thanks for tuning in, and keep on writing.
Thanks for having me, guys.
You betcha.